So I just saw the New Mutants, and after all the alleged reshoots and pushbacks and delays...
Was it worth it? No, it wasn't.
But at least it was a pretty fun time at the theater after so long. I wouldn't blame anyone who watched this movie and found it boring, but I surprisingly got a decent amount of enjoyment out of this. I certainly had a better time with this than with Birds of Prey. When a movie fails at being a comedy, then the entire experience can be completely miserable. But when a drama or horror movie fails at being dramatic or scary, the final product often ends up being pretty hilarious. Not only am I relieved by the fact that it wasn't as boring as I thought it would be, but I really appreciate the choice to keep it under 2 hours in the end.
I noticed the running time at some point was only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Standard, well now, when we were young, standard fucking movie length, but now it's like 2 hours and 48 minutes!
It didn't overstay its welcome at all, and it was over before I knew it. When it comes to the actual horror aspect of this movie though, it's pretty lame. Some would say that's mainly because this movie decided to go with a PG-13 rating, but it's still possible to make something effectively scary by implying the violence and leaving things up to your imagination, instead of nerfing it to the point where it's unrealistic and you can't feel any real consequence. Even Shazam, a movie that marketed itself as more of a kids movie, had scarier scenes than anything from this. They also could have worked around the rating by using the mystery of the environment they're in, but even that falls flat on its face. This big hospital they live in is supposed to be a place where the mutants can discover and learn to control their powers, but it's just one adult watching 5 kids, and you can tell in the script they probably wanted a lot more people walking around filling up this location. I wish I could say that the fact that it was so barren added to the creepiness of the movie, but it just came off as cheap. And in the end, they just completely throw that tone out the window in service of a standard action climax with a giant CG bear.
Ooh, scary.
All the performances ranged from decent to pretty bad, Blue Hunt being the worst of the main cast, and it certainly doesn't help that she's basically the main character. Anya Taylor-Joy did her best with the material she was given, but her character was really annoying and she was not selling her fake accent at all. She was constantly giving me Captain Marvel vibes because of how cool she thought she was, knowing she was the most powerful one in the group. Charlie Heaton and Henry Zaga were okay, but I found Henry to be kind of annoying because he was the forced comic relief. Maisie Williams was probably my favorite out of all of them, but for all the interesting things they could have done with her character, none of it really got fleshed out. And Alice Braga, who I guess is the villain of the movie, was really bland, and I can't remember anything about her. She had no real presence as a threat, and while there is an argument to be made that the real threat is just the powers that the kids can't control, everything they show and tell about the accidents that got them here was just really tame and watered down, despite having some really good potential for making some compelling backstories. It's a shame that this is the last we'll see of Fox's X-Men franchise, and I have a good feeling this is where the MCU is headed too. They had the perfect chance to end it where everyone would be satisfied, but studios don't end franchises when there's finality to the story. They end them when they stop making money.